Hello everyone and welcome back to Becoming Limitless. Today's guest is working in an area that I believe is often overlooked when we speak about health, performance, and even longevity. And that is the power of the mind. Joining us is Sam Daghash, founder of New Mind and a master coach and a practitioner specializing in mental reconditioning and subconscious transformation. His work focuses on helping people uncover and release limiting beliefs and subconscious patterns that quietly shape our behavior, decisions, and ultimately the quality of our lives. Using tools such as NLP, hypnosis, breathwork, and time paradigm techniques, Sam helps individuals rewire deeply ingrained patterns and unlock higher level of clarity and performance. Today, we will explore the psycho-emotional dimension of health and how the subconscious mind may be shaping far more of our reality than we realize. Sam, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the invite, Dr. Lee. Really excited for the conversation.
I am particularly excited about this one. And I told you this many times. I mean, there's so much that we can dive into today.
For
but
sure.
I want to know a little bit about your journey, how you got here.
Sure.
You're such a you have such an overwhelming presence, calming presence. Even your hugs are full of love.
Thank you.
How did you get here?
Well, I mean, I had to do the work, to be honest, Dr. Lee. Everyone has a journey, as you know. So my background, for about 14 years, I was in the corporate world in ad tech and media and advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a realization based on our conditioning that I needed to tick certain boxes that will allow me to be happy. And I find myself in that rat race, actually losing myself, losing my identity, anxious, overweight, unhealthy, drinking. I did everything that was supposed to be done in terms of getting my sports car, getting the property, traveling, but I was unhappy.
Right.
And then I had to take a step back, I had to zoom out, and I had a realization, an epiphany that I needed to change my life. And it was a very fearful place because, when you step into the unknown, you're reinventing yourself, hence where the brand and the name came with New Mind. I realized I need a new level of mind to create something new.
Yeah.
So I started my journey, ended up in the world of transformation, worked with many mentors on myself, and then that was a calling. I realized that if it changed my life and I believed in what it did for me, I think that was the calling that I could do that for others. Because I know a lot of people today feel stuck. They think that they can't change their life. They think that they're in a specific job, relationship, whatever it is, and they get stuck in the illusion that there's no change, there's no ability to change. And I was the proof in my own journey, and that became my fire. And then since then, the New Mind brand, 8 years in, that's been my domain.
Yeah, and we've been partners for a couple of years now, so we've been doing quite a few things
100%,
together.
100%.
And you said about being stuck. Even there, I know quite a few people that don't even know they're stuck.
Yeah.
They live in such a different reality of what others see. Even their own partners, people that are super close to them, they see them differently, but we don't see it ourselves. So your work is very, very important, I think. One of the first things that I would like to know from you is, you often say that most of our behavior is driven by the subconscious mind, right?
Yeah.
For someone hearing this for the first time, what does that really mean?
So subconscious, the actual terminology is unconscious, right? So unconscious, what people need to understand is that our mind and the capacity, how we are designed and wired as humans, we have the conscious element of things that we can control in our life, the things that we do habitually. But over time, a lot of that becomes subconscious, meaning it's unconscious programs running in. A very simple example I like to use is someone learning how to drive. In the beginning, they're using all their conscious effort to change the gear, to listen to the engine. When we started to learn. Eventually, you jump on the car and you get from A to B. You don't realize how you got to there, right?
Right.
That's the subconscious taking over. Now, 95% of your habits and behaviors, the way you do things, the way you speak to people, is a set of unconscious programs.
Right.
And a lot of these programs, over time, they become working sometimes for us and sometimes against us. So subconscious is a big part of our mind, and there are many prime directives of that, but ultimately is really subjective to where we are in our journey and how it's serving us.
Right.
So my role is to go in the program where things that are subconscious, that they keep happening, behaviors that they can't change, and we ultimately shift that.
Right. And for a lot of us, I mean, using our mind to understand our mind is a tricky process, right?
100%.
So it's not something that you could easily do on your own, I think. I mean, you have to put in a lot of work.
Correct.
So that's why having a practitioner such as yourself and a master coach, it's really important for that.
Yeah.
And I have to mention that New Mind does a lot more than that too. I mean, you have quite a few cool things that you do, from grounding sheets to one of my ultimate favorite, Chaga.
The crystal black,
Yeah, the crystal black. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I obviously sell all of this also at Restore.
Yes.
And anyone who comes in with either anxiety or being sick of caffeine or wanting a pick me up that is actually good for them on more than one level.
Yeah.
I always kind of work with Chaga, and people ask me like, "What do you do? Like, what is it? Do you do caffeine?" I say, "Well, I do caffeine in the morning, but generally throughout the day, this is what I drink." For people who don't know what Chaga is, and maybe I'll learn one or two things too.
Sure.
Please tell us a little bit about why you work with Chaga and what is the brand that you've created.
Sure. So New Mind, the brand itself, has been around for 8 years, and along my journey, COVID occurred, and I was looking for some alternatives and doing a lot of research to get my immune system support high. With COVID, we needed a high, strong immune system.
Yes.
Lucky enough, I had a gentleman by the name of Seb Eubank, the famous boxer, if you're familiar with Chris Eubank. So his son, I met him throughout COVID. He passed away, unfortunately. He had a heart attack at an issue, so may he rest in peace. So he introduced me to Chaga, and I looked at this piece of wood. It grows on birch tree. It's an adaptogen. It's a mushroom. It's actually known as the king of mushroom. Grows in cold climates, and what we source out is from Siberia. Long story short, what happened is I started taking, because I had an autoimmune called vitiligo, and I was looking for something to bring my immune system up at the same time to support me with melanin, because it supports the skin. Got into that world, and then eventually I realized I started sharing that information with my community over COVID, and everyone was feeling amazing on it, because it's an energy coming from a cellular level, not caffeinated energy. That's just a byproduct, by the way. It's a side effect.
Yeah, no, that I know, yeah. That's amazing.
People take that, they think, oh, I want it for coffee. But no, that's actually, you're cleaning up your system, you're heightened, you're awakened. That's where people feel that awakening state. But it's not a jittery awakening, it's more of a grounded energy. You know? So that journey led me to really seeking to find the best in the world. And funny enough, I ended up having a brother of mine who moved to Russia, and we started a company in Russia, and we started sourcing it from the farmers. And what you have today, which you are one of our great partners, is the crystallized form, which no one has in the space, because what we do is we seep it and we concentrate it, and we are certified, lab tested, UAE registered, and what we do is we created concentration version of it. Zero additives, zero preservatives. We wanted to do things right, because unfortunately in the world of mushrooms, there's a lot of fillers, there's a lot of things grown in the lab, so we wanted to do it the best way. So that came into my journey, and to be honest with you, it's been a life-changing for me. I believe if something works for me, that's my character. If I believe in something and it works for me, it's changed me, then I'm like, everyone that is near and dear to me needs to know about it. I just feel that's the right way of doing things. I'm sure I noticed that in your character as well, in terms of you always go through the own trial and tribulation and then realize that works. He give it to your community and to your tribe, right? So that's how Chaga in particular as a product, as a wellness product, came into my life. Same thing with grounding. Grounding, I traveled quite a bit. I used to go up and down to the US. I used to feel disconnected. I lived in South Africa for many years. That was the majority of my life. We're always barefoot, we're always on the grass, we're always on the beach. And I felt a sense of disconnection living in high rises in Dubai. Same story, seeked something, got it from the US. This is before anyone knew anything about grounding.
Right.
And then I realized this is something that works, it helps, and then the science is backing it up. Earth Institute has all the data. So I was like, okay. So I brought that into part of our brand as a wellness product in what we do at New Mind.
Yeah. So for those that heard Chaga for the first time now, to describe it, it's actually like a small jar, right?
Yes.
Of this amazing crystal. I call it black gold, right? Because you only take a little bit and you add hot water to it.
Correct.
And you can have it like a warming drink. and it doesn't take much, right?
Yes.
So even though the container is small,
yes,
it does many cups, right?
100%.
So it does a lot of.
There's 30 grams in there. It lasts about a month and a half, almost 2 months. It lasts you.
Yeah.
And you need, some people take half a gram, some people take 1 gram. That's a recommended dosage per day. That's all you need, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an antioxidant.
One of the highest antioxidant on the planet, on the RX scale. It's one of the best thing to take for immunity and support, and more importantly, it just gives you that clear mind, the less fogginess, and gives you that clarity and energy without the crash, because there's no caffeine. That's why most people love it.
Yeah.
As a coffee
and it's absolutely natural and
100% natural. Literally, we steep it, we freeze it. It's called deep freeze, and we crystallize it.
Yeah.
That's
and the beauty about that is that it's not possible for mold to grow on it,
100%.
unlike coffee, right?
Yes, 100%.
And then for me, I feel so when I use it daily almost.
Yeah.
I preserve it,
Yes.
so because there's so much going on that sometimes that I run out.
Yes.
So when I do take it, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, I feel focus.
Yes.
Unlike anything else.
Yes.
There's a particular feeling that I can't describe, but it's the best or the closest word is focus.
Yes.
Which sometimes we really need.
Sure.
So it is a ritual of mine that whenever I'm doing a big talk, whenever I'm on a big stage, is to have Chaga before that, and I take it with me. And I sip it throughout the morning before my talk. And it gives me this absolute sort of being centered, focused, and kind of feeling good about what I'm saying.
Yes, it's a grounding energy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, Dr. Lee, that you said, by the way, the best way to do it is to cycle on it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing it every day.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do 4 or 5 days on, 2 or 3 days off. But I love the fact that you take it intentionally, because you tune into understanding. Remember, it grows on birch trees, 10 to 20 years to grow. Imagine. The farmers go up, they chop pieces of it. It's a fungus that grows. But then after that, when you're taking that, there's a symbiotic experience with all the nutrients from the tree as well. That's why you feel literally grounded and you feel focused. The focus, by the way, just to add to that, is literally coming from a cellular level. So
Yes.
the cellular energy. So it's a clean energy. That's why you feel clear.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then on the grounding side,
Yes.
because we've never had an episode yet on
Yes.
grounding.
Yes.
So I know this wasn't the focus of what we're talking about, but
Yes.
I'd love to help people understand a little bit more on how grounding work and why is it important. I mention it in my talks and I
Yes.
mention it in some of my content.
Yes.
And I use your product. You have 2 types of products.
Yes.
That maybe you could talk a little bit about that for people to understand.
No problem. I'll dive into that quickly. So grounding, first of all, we're not reinventing the wheel. This is something that's important to understand, that we are electromagnetic beings. There's electrical charge in our body. We have the negative and positive ions. So when you touch barefoot onto the ground, you're discharging yourself. So you're recalibrating the electrons in the body. So the blood circulation is better. Sleep and recovery is better. It's just a way of getting you back into balance, in a nutshell.
Yes.
Now, there are so many benefits and so much research, which is why I love, because I'm a data person. I like to see the evidence, because it's in this world, evidence is the loudest voice, right? But there's evidence about bringing in inflammation in the body. Literally, they show you scans. We have that as well available. 4 days sleeping on a bed sheets versus before. It reduces inflammation in the body. That's why a lot of people report feeling better from recovery perspective. But ultimately, it's just getting us back to nature, back to connecting with the earth and the earth's magnetic field. Now, as a technology, a lot of people ask me this: how does that work? How am I plugging into there and not getting electrified? Because every single plug that we have in a wall, there's a plug. It's an earth plug. So what we do is we're eliminating the electricity, and we're pulling the earth frequency through the plug, through this cable that every single tower, every single home has a plug that's connected to earth.
Yeah.
So what we're pulling that specific frequency through the technology, or through the simple, easy aspect of the sheet itself. There's a specific wiring in there that magnetize that distributes that across.
Right, so there's no power running through it.
There's no electricity running through
so
it.
there's no EMF.
There's the electrical charge of the earth.
Right.
But there's no actual power. So
Yes,
make
just
sure
the
everyone...
basic one that we need.
Yes, that's it. That's the correct one.
So every building, every structure need to have that.
As a third. It's the top one usually. If you live in the UAE, it's always the one at the top. That's the earth.
Yes.
In Arabic, بيسموه أرضي.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly.
So that's the one that's sitting there. And what we do with our special plug is we eliminate the two, and we make sure that that's pulling that specific thing. Now, there's testers that we provide to make sure that it's working correctly, that there's no interference. We also do that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's very simple. It's not really a complicated thing. It's a very simple back to foundations.
Yeah, and then the sheet is a little wrap that goes across the bed.
Yes.
So you put it under your sheet.
No, you have to put it over your sheet, and it has to touch your skin.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it's under the sheet.
No. It has to touch your skin. And what I always recommend, because there's a fibers in the sheet. If you notice the silver fibers, those silver fibers. Some people look. In some cases, you can have the sheet over, but if we want to do best practice, always let it touch you. So what I do, as even personally at home, is I put it right at the end of my bed over the last bit of my sheet. So my bed sheet over, as long as it touches my leg, I'm good. Or some people I know have told us that they put it after the pillow, and because it's a very long sheet, so it takes any size, and it tucks in, and it sits under, doctor, and that's it. You got as long as it touches your skin. Same thing with the mat. The mat touches your feet or touches by your laptop. As long as it's making contact. The mat, you need 15 minutes. The bed sheet, which is why I love it, you forget about it. You're 8 hours sleeping in the forest. You know? That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
And that to help people understand is that the grounding is there for safety anyway.
Yes.
So for electrocution, because it drives the current into the ground.
Correct.
And hence why it's called grounding.
Correct.
So there's a big rod that they put into the floor to actually take all of that current down.
Yes.
And we're tapping into that.
Correct.
Basically.
That's 100%. We're pulling that specific electromagnetic.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's pivot a little bit.
Sure.
Still related, but I want to kind of focus on this a little bit. So many people know what they should do, right? Sleep, workout, movement, etc. Why do they get stuck?
Well, it's interesting because this is a big one. So why most people get stuck is because they're stuck in their behavior, the habitual mind. Now, to give a breakdown, Dr. Lee, this is very going to make everyone understand, zoom out. Every single thing in our life we consider a result, right? Whether it's a result is something you enjoy doing, you're doing something good for you, for your health, for your physical well-being or your mental well-being, at the end of the day, it's a result. So if we understand where results come from, there are some total of things we do and the things we don't do, correct?
Right.
Now, what happens is you ask yourself, well, where does the results come from? If you trace that back, you go, well, Dr. Eli behaves a certain way, therefore he gets that specific result. We know you're supposed to behave a certain way to get a result. Most people know this. Most people try to change their behavior, but they can't. Why? Because the behavior is subconscious. It's an unconscious set of programs. So then you go, okay, well, take me a way deeper. So why does Dr. Eli behave a certain way and this person behaves a certain way? He gets result, this one doesn't, even though he knows. Well, you go, why? It's because there's something, the precursor to behavior is what we call our state of being. What is our state, Dr. Eli? It's how we think and how we feel at any given moment. It's the thought process and the emotion in the body. The state has a range of behavior. It dictates how you behave. So if you're in a fearful state, or an anxious state, or an angry state, or a lazy state, you're going to think, act, and feel the habits that produce the specific results. So people, when they come to me, they go, well, I know these are my behaviors, but I need to change it. I'm like, okay, cool. So then you go, what is causing that? I'm in a specific state that just goes, oh, I'll just do this tomorrow, right? That's the state.
Right.
Now, here's what most people don't know. What drives the states of being, now, by the way, the behavior is 95% unconscious. Your state is 95% unconscious. Your state of being.
Right.
The precursor to your state, and this is, in my opinion, the gold, where most people miss, is your conditioning. How have you been conditioned? You know, when people come to you, Dr. Eli, and you do a great job, just, this is not a compliment, mashallah, yani, really. People come to you and say, doctor, I need to recondition my body. I have this. So you study their environment, you study what they're taking, you're helping them recondition their body to achieve a certain target, a result.
Right.
That's conditioning. The mind has exactly the same thing. We are conditioned to think, act, and believe certain things about us, our self-image. So if we have a misaligned self-image that we're not healthy, that we're not good enough, that we can't stick to habits, we always let ourselves down, we self-sabotage ourselves. That's the conditioning of the identity, the internal identity. That's the work. So if you are able to reach the conditioning, this is what I do, and change the self-image, change how they think about themselves, how they believe, the beliefs, the decisions, what their parents told them, what their society, what their culture, what their religion, things that are not serving them today.
The experiences they've had.
Beautiful experiences. Right? That is that's what ultimately shifts everything, because then that creates a domino effect. Then they're in the right state. Then they start to behave a certain way, and then they get the results they want.
Right.
Is it making sense? You can't tell someone, hey, go to the gym. I know I need to go to the gym. And they go to the gym and everyone's excited at the beginning of the year. You know this, Dr. Lee. And then after 1 month, 2 months, they're back on the couch, they're eating the negative food. Why? It's because they're back into the program of that behavior and state. Does that answer the question?
Yes, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. And I call that, and I say it frequently, maybe you've heard me say that, is that we are our biggest saboteur when it comes to our journeys. Because these are humming in the background 100%. And most likely we're not aware of them for most of us. And then so when people ask me, how do you do what you do? I say, well, I really can't answer that. It is a lifestyle. So I've at some point, I was able to tap into that, and obviously, you know how much work I put into myself.
Of course.
And that's where change happens. And then the results are no longer kind of something that I seek. It is something that just happens, right?
Subconsciously.
Yeah.
It's an unconscious process. You've conditioned yourself to eat healthy, to exercise, to feed yourself the right information, to have healthy boundaries. It becomes an autopilot. So there is a time we all require a little bit of effort. We require a little bit of intention, which I'm sure you have done in your life, to choose the health, to make the right decisions. But eventually, Dr. Eli's internal self-image is like, I am a representation of what I do. I am an embodiment of health, because that becomes the identity. So therefore, the results that everyone comes to you for, which you do effortlessly, I must say, is because you have reached a level where it's working in the back end.
Yeah.
It's not like I have to do this now, and there's not a constant struggle or a fight. But that's because the work has been done.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, like what you do for your clients, for example, it's really me on the other side. It's, if you think about
100%.
You know,
it's
I'm approaching exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same journey. You get to the result through the body. A healthy body creates a healthy mind, but also a healthy mind creates a healthy body. So it's just understanding that all routes get to where we need to. It's just how do we
have to work together. And this is really what I strive to do in the program for Limitless Human, is that whatever I create, I create in a sense where it has to be responsible. If my son is not able to do it, then I wouldn't be talking about it. This is my filter, right?
Yeah.
The people that I care about the most,
of course,
is my filter of what I put out. So for Limitless Human, because there are so many programs out there that do all sorts of things, right? But they're all kind of like long term. They want you to be there for as long as possible, so they can continue to benefit.
That's the opposite of me, by
right?
the way.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Of you too.
So it's for me, the program is 4 months. If by that time you're not able to get on the path and see, certain results, then you're not ready to help yourself yet.
100%.
Right?
That's exactly what I say. 100%.
Yeah. So for me, that's what I focus on 100%. So to actually put them on a path, and then they're able to take it themselves, and they see the value, and they see how relatively easy for them to make minor changes, but intentional, consistent, over a small period of time, to ultimately reach where they want to reach, and then get on that path, and it becomes mindless.
100%.
So you kind of get into it. But at the end of the day, what holds us back, what holds most people back, including myself, something that I've worked on quite a bit, is trauma. Stuff that, we think that we're not good enough for this. Why would I be, I'm now married, why do I need to look good? It happens with women and men. I see it more in women, unfortunately, than I do with men. Weight is no longer an issue. I can let myself go, as if that's the goal, is I can gorge on things rather than health is where really my wealth is,
100%.
So tackling that is perhaps the biggest challenge in the program, because the rest is kind of, if you do A, B is going to happen,
That's a mindset, by the way, Dr. Eli.
Yeah, 100%.
And that what you just tapped in is something so powerful a lot of people are unaware of. What we call this in my world, we call it secondary gain. So a secondary gain is, I'm going to self-sabotage myself because I've sold myself an idea that I'm allowed to do that because I'm married, because I don't need to care about myself. But ultimately, the root cause of that, if you ask me, and based on my experience, is that there is a disconnect between the person and themselves. So they've lost self-love, they've lost self-respect, they've lost self-worth. And when you shift that, and that's doable, by the way, you change the relationship with yourself and you go, no, I want to do this for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this for my husband or for my wife. I want to do this for me. This is about me. And then you start to go, well, if actually I do this health journey for me and I work with Dr. Ali, I'm serving me first and foremost, but then I'm ending up being more healthier for my family, for my kids, for my society, whatever journey you're on. But that's the disconnect, Dr. Ali, that most people are unaware of. And by the way, that sometimes makes your job maybe a bit harder, like as an admission.
100%.
You know what I mean? So when you get that into alignment, it becomes easier because there's an internal buy-in rather than a pressure of I need to be because I'm comparing myself to someone else. And that's where most people fall into as well.
Right, right. So, and you see that quite often when there are breakups, for example. All of a sudden, the person is completely like interested in looking the best, fixing everything, because they got into this particular trauma that kind of kick-started something
100%.
new, and they want to reinvent themselves, which is unfortunate, you know, because it's cyclical.
Yes.
Once they go back into a relationship, the same thing happens again.
Yeah.
They let themselves go, and then another shock comes in, and then they go on. And I see it very frequently.
So true.
Today, actually, I was looking at someone, and I thought, oh my God, she transformed herself.
Yes.
Because of that breakup.
Yes.
You know, there was no other major
That's the fuel.
thing.
But that's not a good fuel, though.
Yeah.
That's a fuel coming from a place of revenge.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like you rightfully said, that's not sustainable. Because remember, there's, I work with a lot of high achievers, and something I've picked up over the years, and this is something just from pattern, right? Most high achievers, they don't know this, but they're high achievers and they get so far in life, but there's a sense of dissatisfaction. And you go and you deep into the psyche, you understand, oh, well, the reason I got to this stage is because I didn't believe I was good enough, so I had to compete with everyone and compare myself consistently. It's an empty and not a healthy fuel. It gets you far in some cases, but it's not going to allow you to be fulfilled and satisfied. So the other way, which is the fuel that I like to work with, is the fuel of self-worth, self-love, self-appreciation, self-respect. And when you play from that space, no matter what relationships look like, no matter what environment shifts around you, there's always going to be that sense of, I go back to my center because this is where I know what is good for me. Not because of this or that reason, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100% it does. 100% it does. And I think it then becomes a lot more rewarding for you, for your partner, for your kids, for your environment, for the people, for your posse, for the group that you're part of, for society. Everything becomes better. And then, when we segregate things, it doesn't make as much sense anymore. And it's ultimately, it cannot be successful.
I agree.
So everything works together. That's why I always say, for example, health is it takes a village. It's for everyone. It's not, if one of us is sick, we're all sick.
Yes.
Because that's a fact of life, So we need to be there for each other in that sense by realizing that we do not need a negative stimulus for us to kind of work better on ourselves, but instead, how can you contribute to your society, your partner, your kids, your family, the people that you love, etc. Yeah, purpose that you have.
100%.
There's a couple more things that I want to touch on before we finish here today. I know that you and I can be talking forever, and hopefully we could do this again.
No problem, anytime.
So emotional regulations and the relationship to physical health. Right?
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So one thing we need, when we talk about the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind, what our audience need to understand, and our listeners and our viewers, is that the body is the subconscious mind.
Right.
So all data, all trauma, the big T's, the small T's, all of them are stored in the body. Over time, they create what we call, in my world, we call them a negative charge. And a lot of the times, if people do not know how to process their emotions, they don't have certain modalities or tools that enables them to release that, what that happens, it gets stored in the body. And that creates a disconnect in the body. So if you heard the term disease, the precursor to disease is dis-ease, right? You know this, doctor. Most diseases is stress related. But what is stress? It's emotional stress. It's a tightness. It's a charge in the body that is not being processed. So a big part of my work is actually releasing that charge in the nervous system, in the body, so that the body can start to communicate better with itself through our neurology, right? So ultimately, the emotional charge, or the emotional experiences of the body, has a direct effect in physical and mental well-being, health well-being, because it's constantly affecting, which I mentioned earlier, your state of being, that fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system. Even though you think you're calm consciously, but subconsciously you're on edge, or there is something that you haven't processed. And in my background in studying, even the physical body, there's different energy centers in the body, and each energy center represents certain data, certain experiences that they've had, that person, that actually causes a disconnect and a disease in that. So all diseases can actually track back to emotional trauma in the body. Does that answer the question?
100%, yes. And as a manifestation of this, I see it very frequently, and maybe I'm sure you've come across it too. And in the past, it used to happen to me too. You know, when you are in fight or flight for such a long time, and then you take a break, let's say a high intensity job, or a life that is, you know, very demanding, and then you take a vacation, right? And within a few days of a vacation, what happens? You fall sick, right?
100%.
And it happens like
100%
for everyone,
100%.
You know? So it's that body kind of recalibrating. And now that is no longer in fight or flight, and it lets go, then it manifests itself in all of the ailments that have not been dealt with.
100%. And if you notice something, most people that, in that case, because that's a common case for everyone, including myself, you will notice that it will also show up in the illness or the sickness in a specific area as well. So if the person is prone to have problems with their chest or sinus, or gut issues, or acid reflux, whatever sick, it comes to the weakest part of that body where the trauma or the emotions is out of balance. That's usually a common pattern that you will find out, that goes to the weaker part of the body. And that's where the body's going, but then it surfaces up because it's been changed. It's crazy.
What do you think about emotions being stored in the body? You know, like how women, they feel that their emotions are stuck in their hips, and men in, you know, somewhere else. And, does that make sense?
Well, it depends really, because a lot of it sometimes it can be subjective to the mind, right? So it could be a placebo as well. So we have to go back to the basics. The basics is, and the fundamentals is that yes, the body stores information and data and emotions, and yes, there's certain pressure points in the body where if you go, that it can actually bring up and call up a memory. I've seen that in my own personal journey and in others as well. So yes, it is stored, but it's also subjective to how the person is coping with it and what they're seeing. So there is truth to that, but it's subjective to if it's a direct element or if it's a thought process that you think it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it can be a bit of both.
Because I mean, certain people would say, you know, for women, this is where emotions are trapped, and you know,
it's subjective. It really depends on. But in general, there are fundamentals, which is what we call the energy centers. This is 100% accurate, and each energy center stores certain things about our psyche. That is 100% accurate, and that's where you can find certain things where people, like for example, just to give you an idea, one of my modalities is called time paradigm techniques. And time paradigm techniques, what I do, as I said, so anyone that wants to work with me, I don't start with them until I've done what I call a cleanse. And the cleanse is resetting their nervous system from all past emotions that's stored in the body. So anger, fear, sadness, emotional pain and hurt, guilt and shame. And what I do is I go, look, in order for us to change anything, it's like an operating system. I can't come and start telling you, you can do this and you can do that. If you have emotions that are coming from your childhood all the way to now. So what I do through Gestalt therapy, time paradigm techniques, is I release all of that, the ones that they remember and the ones that they don't. And that's the better part, the ones that they don't.
Of course, yeah.
Because a lot of the times the one we remember are only there because there was a heightened emotional experience. The brain takes a screenshot of it and goes, I'm going to remember that.
Yes.
But we both know there's a lot of things that happened in our life that we learned, because that's what the body does, to suppress it subconsciously because we can't cope with it.
Right.
Or at the time we didn't know how to.
Right.
So we suppress. And this is a way of protecting the body, right? So my role is to release all of that. Now that has three main benefits, which I've loved over the years. First, which people don't even ask me about, although I always raise it, I said, you're creating physical health. They come because they have negative thought patterns, behaviors, they're holding on, they feel tight, they feel unhappy. Their thought process is very one of doubt or fear or anger or frustration, and they get triggered very quickly. They get on the offensive. You know, Ali, you said something to me, but I perceived that you're attacking me. Although Ali's not attacking, he's very direct.
Of course, yeah.
But that's the emotional charge that's releasing, right?
Yes.
So releasing all of that is releasing the filters and getting you back into fundamentals. Now from there you build. Like what you do with your work, you have to start somewhere of first clearing up. Don't consume all this stuff, you know. Yeah. You I can't give you supplements and you're eating McDonald's. It's just not going to work.
Right.
It's in that if that answers the question.
It does, yes, 100% it does. Let's move on quickly and finish off with hypnosis.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, who is it for? Does it work for everyone? Can I stop smoking with hypnosis, for example?
Again, to be very open and honest, the hypnosis is not for everyone. It depends on the person. That's why That's why in my world I have multiple modalities, and I assess the person. I go, that's going to work for them. That's not. Hypnosis ultimately is a very natural state. It's a brainwave that is very low, and you access the theta brainwave, and you can program. I have a lot of people that come to me, they want to do hypnosis. I say, I won't touch you until we've cleared the past. Mm-hmm. There's no need me going to say, hey, you can stop smoking. But in your mind, you're like, I'm the worst. I'll never stop smoking. I can't believe I can. So it's like trying to install a program in another program.
Or I need it. This is the one.
There we go.
I love that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I need to smoke. It's the only way.
It's the only way for me to release or to be. So you have to work on the foundations of clearing. Hypnosis is a great tool. It's a great, powerful tool for layering in new data, for changing self-images, for releasing certain things. I'm a big fan of it, but again, I do not use it for everything, and I don't use it for everyone, because everyone has a certain key, in my opinion. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, no, it does, for sure. And it kind of is in line with what I believe also, is that it's not for everyone.
Yes, yes.
But it can be super powerful.
Very much. I've got people off vaping from it over the years. I've got people off smoking, but that wasn't the only reason I got them off. That was part of my process. It's like a formula. There's other things that they need to work on first.
Yeah, so don't jump directly. So basically you're saying don't jump directly into hypnosis.
No, because you will get disappointed and you'll go, this doesn't work, and then your mind makes that decision subconsciously, and then there will be an unconscious resistance to that tool. That's just a tool, but you have to have the right formula to make the tool be effective to actually help you with the results you want.
Yeah, and also as I was speaking to you, I noticed something. How powerful language is. Mm-hmm. Like when you say, I need it, because need is a powerful thing, right?
100%.
Need, that means this is something you can't live without, 100%. Rather than want or whatever other words that you want to use.
Yes.
So, and we use that language.
Yes.
So it becomes like so powerful for ourselves, as if life cannot exist without that terrible thing that I do for my body, or I find justification for it. Because I feel that I can't live without it.
100%.
You know?
That's self-conditioning, right? So what you just said is a beautiful and powerful thing for people to take away, is that your language and how you speak to yourself and the words you use, this is what neurolinguistic programming is, So what that does, you're reconditioning yourself to perceive yourself in a certain way, and you buy into that narrative, and it becomes solidified in your neural pathways. So it becomes a process where you need professional help to break that pattern, to catch it where it comes from, the emotional trigger prior, and why you bought into that belief, because all beliefs are decisions. That's all they are.
Yes.
We all decide consciously or subconsciously that this is who I am and this is why I need it, and then you're stuck. Yeah. And no one can change that unless you first open the door to, I need to change this, because otherwise I'm going to get sick and this is not serving me. So the key always lies with the person, to be honest, Dr. Eli, to be open for change first. A lot of people approach me, and I'm very selective, and I do that on purpose, because like you said, people work with me for 10, 15 hours. I don't want to see them more than that. Otherwise, what's the purpose? But for me, I am very selective. Why? Is because I need to make sure that person is serious about change, and is someone that is really wanting to optimize and understand that, no, if I continue onto this trajectory, which was what happened to me 16 years ago, I knew if I continued that trajectory, I was going to continue being obese, unhealthy, and I had so many bad habits that would have drove me off the wagon, literally. So I was like, okay, I need to change trajectory, and I need to be serious about that. So it starts within us first and foremost, to be honest.
You pivot, yeah, for sure. The biggest takeaway from everything you said today is that there is no one thing, which unfortunately most of us, this is what's happening. In my world, in your world, everyone wants the quick solution, be it hypnosis or be it give me that pill and I'll be okay, or you know, what is the easiest, what is the one thing you do? This is the worst question that I get. What is the one thing that you can do, you know, for this? It's a combination of things,
100%.
right? It's always, you have to put in the work. There's everything is kind of working together in order for you to be, and it's ongoing. It's not a state of it's not a stable state.
Yes.
You're on a journey always.
100%.
You know, you're going to have great days, you're going to have good days, and you're going to have days where you think to yourself, I need to work a little harder on myself.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But ultimately, I think the benefit is compounding, and I think one of the greatest benefits that I see, and I believe that you see it too, because I see it in you.
Thank you.
Is that one of the things that is an effect, if you want, of everything that we do, is that we're perhaps a little kinder to each other.
For sure.
You know, which is something that is absolutely needed.
For sure.
For humanity everywhere.
100%.
A little bit less judgmental of each other. You know, kind of realizing or seeing yourself in the person in front of you, no matter how terrible that person is, in your opinion. There is a part of you that is exactly that.
Of course.
And that is, I think, is a powerful realization for people to understand that it's not one thing, it's many things together. It is a decision that you make for yourself.
Yeah.
It is a journey and not a destination. And at the same time, look at the compounding benefit of that. It's not just you becoming healthy. When you are healthy, you're impacting the people that mean the most to you
100%.
to be healthy themselves. When that imagine what happens to the extended society and how better to each other we can be when we are healthier.
Yeah, I agree. Well said, Dr. Ali. And this is why I think from day one, over the years where we connected, me and you, is understanding that fundamentals is that we come from a place of our center, we work with intention, but also we understand that, you know, I go back always to the saying of Carl Jung. He says, perception is projection. You know, what you see in others is a reflection of you. And even if it's a triggering one, it's also an invitation to look within and go, why am I judgmental, or why? There's no judgment. We're human. No one's perfect. But it's also the deeper understanding that you attract your tribe, you attract the people that resonate with you, and you want people in your life that you can look up to, or at least people that you want to embody. Meaning you see, you know, when I see you all the time, Ali, and this is not a compliment, I see the health, you embody health, and you embody what you speak, and you walk the walk, you talk the talk. And again, this is not a comment, this is truth, because I know you. And I think that's where, in our environment, in our space, in our world at least, it's needed. And that's not only by look, it's also by treatment. It's how you treat others, it's how you have that. Because in my opinion, a physical body, when it's healthy, it's an embodiment. But the mind also it starts to work better. The mind works better when the body's healthy.
Yeah.
It literally does.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's a marriage really at the end of the day. And then that's the calling, that's the message for everyone today is remember, just love yourself a little bit more, be patient on yourself, and also understand that it's a journey, like you rightfully said. There's no magic pill, but it's also being honest with ourselves. And
I also believe it's a responsibility too.
Of course.
You know, it's a responsibility because it doesn't start and end with you. Everything that you do, every act, every behavior on the road, every interaction, it multiplies. You know, you don't know where it ends. You know,
100%.
So I take that very seriously. I am so glad we had this conversation today.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Ali.
you so much for finding the time to do this with me. It's a long time coming.
It's a pleasure.
Hopefully we'll do a lot more of these.
Of course, I'm always open to spend time with you. Thank you for being the example in this space. Thank you for, generally, I mean that from my heart, always being the kindest and most grounded person I know in this space as well. So it's an honor for you to have the conversation and to ride this journey with you. Thank you.
That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, here you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching or listening, wherever you are. Be kind to each other, and see you next time.